Hey guys, I wanted to take a minute to talk a little bit about a video I made the other day and a comment that was posted on the video by Tyr Ravenson. And sometimes, he's a longtime viewer of the channel. He has his own YouTube channel, and sometimes we have a little bit of a difference of opinion on approaches. Now, one thing I want to say is, I am really open to anybody's comments and criticisms or their opinions, right? And most of the time, what I'll tell you is that when someone thinks or when I put something out there and maybe it's not really clear, or maybe I'm making an assumption with myself on being farther along in the process, and I kind of forget about earlier in the process, or whenever you're really struggling, or whenever you really need to fight back. And Tyr has always had a, he's quick to remind me and remind other people that there is a time to fight back. There is a time to look for information. There is a time where you have to, you have to do those things. And a lot of times when I'm talking about this, and when I'm saying, you need to stop looking, or you need to, really embrace no contact, or you need to, phase these people out of your life, what I'm really saying is when you've gotten to the point that you know what you're dealing with, and you beat your head against the wall, and you're to the point where you're really not making any more progress, then continuing down that road doesn't do you any good. Now, the caveat with that is, and I'm going to link to a couple of videos that he did to address this issue, because that's what I said. He posted a comment. I went to reply to it because I thought it was a really great comment about went fighting back and basically not a different approach, but something that I do agree with. But he put it out there, and I thought it was a really great comment. And before I could respond, he deleted it. And when I reached out to him, because I tried to email him and say, hey, that was a really good comment. You didn't have to delete it. And he was like, hey, it's not really, it's not my channel. I mean, it's your thing, so whatever. And I said, you know what? Not a problem. I tell you what, make a rebuttal video with your opinion and your thought, and I'll link to it. And that's what this video is going to do right here, is I'm going to link to those videos. And so first thing, if you have a difference of opinion with me, share it. Right? Now, be respectful. I mean, there's no reason to be, disrespectful, and he's not. Tyrs isn't. I mean, and that's not what I'm saying. But there's multiple angles to deal with this, and most of the time when people are talking about stuff, it's situations that I did go through and did deal with earlier, and I'm just. Not to say that I'm past it, but my situation has gotten to a point where there's no need for me to do it. Now, if you watch his video, he's talking about not being, don't put a blind eye to your enemy. Make sure you understand what they're doing, and I get that, right? And I agree with that. Especially early on when you're trying, well, there's two parts. One, you want to know what they're doing so you can protect yourself. The second thing is, it is a little bit validating to actually be able to see what they're doing. In my opinion, though, there comes a time whenever it really doesn't do you any good, and it's just kind of counterproductive. So that's kind of the point I'm coming from. But if you watch his videos, he's talking about it from more of the part of collecting that information, building your case against a person, building your protection against it, and even fighting back on the smear campaigns to try to share your side of the story. And guys, I've gone through all of that, right? Now, maybe he's more effective than I am, and from one of the examples he used, he's, pretty much sounds like he was able to convince his close friends or his mutual friends what the situation was, and that's great. But there comes a point whenever it's not helping you, and that's what I'm talking about, right? So I've said this before in other videos, and this is probably a really good time for me to just repeat it and to remind everyone about it, is there comes a time when you do have to fight, right? Because here's the thing, if you don't and you can't let it go, like I couldn't in the beginning stages of it, you're not going to find any peace, right? Because my problem with it in the beginning, whenever I wasn't, whenever I was trying to take the high road and to not, minimize what I was doing to fight back, and when situations would come up, for me to let it go, it was too much. I just couldn't do it. So I fought back. Now, and I've talked about this before, but what the thing is so I made those decisions. I did those things. You know, there could have been a consequence for it. Luckily, for the most part, as you know in my story, everything turned out basically okay-ish, you know, with 50-50. I mean, it didn't necessarily solve the consternation that continues to go on with this relationship, for lack of a better word. But I completely get that there are things that I say today that I wouldn't have been able to do 4 years ago. I get it, right? A lot of times when I'm talking about this stuff, it's more, I want you to think about the end goal of where you're getting. Now, if you watch his video, he talks about, like, if you get to the point where no contact works or you have a stable point, then, you know, some of these techniques, or a lot of the techniques I'm talking about, are really good for it. You really have to gauge your own situation, and you have to make those transitions when you're ready. I don't think there's anybody that can start this situation at day one and get to where I am overnight. It's not going to happen, because you still have the animosity, you still have the anger, you still have the hurt, the betrayal, all those things, and you're going to have to work through those before you can move on. And in those stages, in the beginning stages, you know, doing some things to find information and basically collect intelligence on what your enemy is doing, which is basically, and I did the same thing, is important in the early stages so that you don't get blindsided, right? I haven't talked about this in a long time, and I'm not going to belate this in this video right here, but you don't want to be naive and end up in court or end up in a situation where you've been blindsided and it really costs you. You know, the same thing, and I've said this before, if somebody's doing something and it's not impacting you, it's not impacting your job, it's not impacting your checkbook, it's not impacting, you know, I mean, reputation is, I mean, that's depending, right? In my situation, she was trying to demolish my reputation, but it didn't do anything. I mean, my situation impacted my job, but that was a totally different political game. And I don't really believe it was directly related to what she was saying or doing. That was a really small subset of people who I really didn't care about their opinions. It didn't matter. It didn't matter to my life. I mean, it did hurt my feelings, and to see these people doing, you know, basically taking that side, that was tough. But in the grand scheme of things, nothing was seriously impacting my credibility and that type of stuff at work. So I wasn't necessarily worried about that. Now, if all bets are off, if it is impacting it, if your situation or those lies and those smear campaigns are impacting you, then you have to do something about it. And I'm not saying not. I'm just saying that once you've fought the fight, you've won your victories, you've had your defeats, your situation is, I mean, you know who you're dealing with, you understand what they're doing, and you can kind of gauge the level of viciousness that they're going to employ, then you can start making changes in how you do it. So on that, just if you get a chance, check out the little cards, hit the little I button up there, and it'll pop up, and you can check out his videos. You know, and just to clarify, if there's something I say that you guys don't agree with, and periodically there are people who say that, let's talk about it, right? I mean, that is the best thing. And I think I've demonstrated over and over again in the comments on the channel and the videos I've made that I'm pretty open, and I have a pretty thick skin, and you know, I'm open to listen to other people's comments, their concerns, their philosophies, you know, how the situation impacts them. Now, I'll try to explain my situation, and I've done that a few times in the comments as well, but I think that discussion is important, right? I don't want you to think that my solution is the only solution, and I think if we can have a reasonable conversation about it, that is actually beneficial to everyone. So on that, I'm going to wrap this up. Sorry for the quick video. I just wanted to try to set something up real quick, so my little studio is kind of in a shambles. But you know, if you want to talk more about this, or you have some thoughts on this, and you have some thoughts on his videos, leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, please subscribe. And if you haven't already done so, please head on over to the Dad Surviving Divorce website, sign up for the newsletter. And let's see, today would be Tuesday, so I will be having a live stream at 6 p.m. This evening, Pacific time, because that's where I am. And that's when I can get home and actually do this. Hopefully you guys can join in on that. And I will either see you a little bit later today, or I'll chat with you on the next video. Take care.